Good morning. Thank you so much for joining our coffee conversations with Forge Breast Cancer Survivor Center. So excited today. We've been talking about this coffee conversation for a while. And we have some amazing authors and friends, breast cancer survivors here to talk about what to expect when diagnosed with breast cancer, to kind of help give some tidbits about what they learned along the way and how it can help inspire others through their journey. So before we start getting into those things, if you both could introduce yourselves and just how we all wound up here today together.
Okay, you want me to go first? I'm Kathryn Tortorici, and I live in Birmingham, Alabama. Grew up here, raised my children here. But I was in Atlanta for a few years, and that's when I was diagnosed and received treatment. I've got 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and we're doing really well right now. My husband and I are, he's now retired, so we enjoy time just traveling, reading, and being part of the community. So we're doing well.
Okay. I am Nancy Bynon, and I used to live in Birmingham for many years and moved to Houston, Texas, now 14 years. I said, I'll give you 5 years, and now I've been here 14 years. So, but we do come back a lot to Birmingham and Lake Martin. Our daughter and her husband and grandbaby live in Auburn, so we come back often. And our son lives here, and we're just happy to be here and have this conversation with you. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, whose food is better? Houston? Because I've heard some things about Houston. So, is Houston food better or is Birmingham still number one in your book?
You know, that's a good question. I think, Birmingham has so much to offer, but just smaller. And then Houston has a lot to offer, but just like Birmingham, you probably stay in your little area and you don't get out too far. But if you do want to hit Broadway, good foods, you've got a good long list to choose from.
Well, let me not go there because I'm going to come back a lot heavier than I am now. So I'm just not going to visit. I'm going to stay in my little area. So thank y'all for introducing yourselves. And again, thank y'all so much for carving out the time today. So could you just like start us off with the beginning of how did the two of you meet to end up doing this book together?
Well, the Junior League of Birmingham was very influential in the beginning of us writing this book. Nancy and I were involved, and we met when we were on the project of the Junior League cookbook, the third one, Tables of Content. And so that started our conversations with each other. And that we made the cookbook, that was almost 20 years ago. And so that is our friendship. I mean, we have been with each other for, through funerals, through babies, through moves, through all kinds of life challenges. But I guess one of the biggest ones was when we called each other and said, my mammogram wasn't right. We've got to go back. But Nancy has a different story than mine. Crazy, but I'm going to let Nancy share that.
We take it just like your cancer. Everybody has their cancer. They have different treatments. They have whatever. But she always tells everybody how we met. And I thought, I don't even remember that. So, but it was at the Junior League, and they had asked her to do the cookbook. So I asked if I stopped, introduced myself, and said, "Can I be a recipe tester?" And next thing you know, she goes, "I really need you to be my cook." And then from that friendship, we really developed a sisterhood because we learned so much from each other. And then when we did find out from that routine mammogram that we both, within a week, found out that we both had breast cancer, and just where to go from there. And that friendship, sisterhood got even deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad y'all had each other because some people, when they get diagnosed, they don't have anyone. So to have a friend that you can call, and I mean the coincidence, I mean the miraculous thing that you all are going through this together is like I said earlier, it's kind of like a unicorn experience. So I'm so glad that y'all had each other. And so after y'all found out, like, how did you go about telling your families? And did you tell your families going through active treatment? Like, what was that process like? That inspires a lot of fear in people. Like, how do I tell my family or my spouse or my kids that, cancer it's found its way in my body?
Well, just like every cancer is different, every treatment is different for each person. Everybody deals with it differently. My approach is I wanted my tribe around me. I wanted to tell my friends and my family. So then I had their support, their prayers. That just was huge. Nancy, on the other hand, which I think is so perfect too, she wanted to gather her knowledge. She wanted to gather every information she could, excuse me, before sharing that with her family. So there's no right or wrong way to tell your family. But it's big because they're going to be going with you through this journey, and their feelings are so important. You kind of just think, well, it's happening to me, not to them. It wasn't until after all of the treatment and all that I really realized my daughter's feelings towards it and her emotions. So that is a huge aspect for having a cancer diagnosis. Nancy, what do you think?
Well, and that was the same thing. I am a nurse, but knew nothing about cancer. And so it's kind of like when you tell somebody you're engaged or you're pregnant, oh, when do you do? What are you having? When are you getting married? I just really wanted, and not that I wanted to exclude anybody, but I just wanted to be able to say, okay, this is what I have. This is what they're going to do first. This is where we're going to go next. And, you know, this is the date I'm going to do it. So that's the only reason I just gathered my knowledge, and because it's scary. You don't want your. It's kind of like we were telling Kathryn, when people hear cancer, they think it's a death sentence, which I don't believe that anymore, because there's so many good treatments out there, and we can add many years to our life. So I didn't want my kids or family members to be scared on that. I just really wanted to have a plan.
So do you think, and I don't know, I think it's really interesting to hear how you both like had two completely different outlooks on, well, like I know I have cancer, but how do I let the people know that love me that I have cancer? For Nancy, it was, I'm going to tell them, but I'm also going to have answers. And for Kathy, she was like, just come and love on me because because we're going to do this together.
Yeah.
And I love that you emphasize there is no right or wrong way to get the support that you need, and share that when you're comfortable with it.
Mm.
And so, well, and ultimately, you all ended up writing this wonderful book. I love this keychain that comes with it. But you all can get this book on Amazon. But 2 by 2 conversations between friends navigating breast cancer. How did you all arrive at, like, I'm going to write this book? We're going to write this book together about doing it together, but also just, I mean, your experiences with breast cancer. I mean, that's so intimate and raw. And so, how did you all arrive at it? And what was that process like? What are some things that someone can hope to learn reading this book about how to navigate their breast cancer journey?
Before Nancy and I had breast cancer, we really didn't know how to love someone else going through that journey. I wasn't experienced. I never had anybody in my family. I'd heard through other people, how they handled it, how their friendship group handled it, but I really didn't have experience. And so one of the things that was heavy on my heart is I wanted to share with those friends that are caring, or family who are caring those that have been diagnosed with cancer, how to love on them well, how to support them, how to be there for them. We have a part in the book, what to say, what not to say. We have a part in the book that says, what helped them the most, what gifts, even if it was the gift of presence, what was the most important thing that helped us through others, that we could help those that are carrying other people through cancer. And I guess that was one of my main reasons for writing this book, is to educate anybody, those that are, because we're all going to know somebody diagnosed with cancer, a relative, diagnosed with cancer, or maybe ourselves. And walking through somebody else's shoes gives you the tools of hope and faith and wisdom of just knowing what's the next step. It's not as scary when you have somebody giving you the cliff notes of a course such as cancer, and being willing to walk with you through that.
And I have to add to that, Kathryn is very creative, and we could so lay out the book, but we won't have that much time on how, we go to the rounded edges, the whole thing. But the hard part is like, mine's more technical. Kathryn writes a beautiful story. Mine's like how to prepare for surgery, what to wear, what to do during the waiting for that results, that you've got that fear of unknown. What's some Bible verses that you can have with that? Kathryn and I both went through radiation, but before my radiation, I ended up having to go through chemo. So just kind of what to expect with chemo, and ask. And, we all want to give. It's hard to receive. So we really kind of this is the time to ask for help, and tell people what you need. Have that person go with you to the doctor's office, because people really, truly do want to help. And we talk about the receiving and giving, and kind of breaking that down in the book.
That's pretty awesome, to write down. And I see what you were talking about how your like mind, like your thought processes kind of complement one another. And I think that's really cool. But to say, like, this is what it looks like on a day-to-day, on you need to wear this for surgery, or just the things that you kind of learned initially to help somebody who's on their way to this point in their journey, but also for the co-survivors, the people who love them, about what not to say. One thing that we tell our volunteers here is that sometimes an understanding silence has more power than the most well-intentioned words, because sometimes you might mean really well, or someone that loves you might mean really well, but they don't know what not to say. So this book essentially is basically what to expect when diagnosed with cancer, or something that you can expect, not necessarily like, this is what it's going to look like, because everybody's journey in breast cancer is so different and unique. But in knowing that, what are some things that you would like for survivors to keep in mind while navigating through breast cancer?
Well, my key takeaway from the whole book, from the whole experience, is that relationships matter. That's the only thing. When you shake everything else out, that's what it boils down to: relationships with others and relationships with your Heavenly Father. And so having somebody with you, a friend such as Nancy. I had just moved to Atlanta. I didn't have many friends in Atlanta. I didn't know that many people. I didn't even know where the hospital was.
Yeah.
I didn't have a doctor. So, I mean, everything was new. And then learning the new room of breast cancer was overwhelming. But I continuously reached out and found people to have conversations. And that's why I think this, what you're doing right now, this platform, is so helpful, to have conversations, to have connections with people going through the same thing. It's just relationships matter, and you need as many people around you to give you support, because you never know when a difficult day will hit. And sometimes those tears are just going to leak, and you just got to cry it out. But then there's other days that you just see God's hand in everything, going, I'm going to be okay. He knows what's ahead of me. So that's my two thoughts. Two cents.
Yeah, that was the whole thing, is we just don't want people to realize that you're not alone. There's websites, there's Facebook support groups. You can actually go on the hospital website and get some support and meet that person. I mean, that person in the waiting room right next to you is going through the same thing, and you can develop that relationship. And hopefully, if you can't find somebody to go to the doctor's office with you, you can FaceTime someone. You're just not alone. There is support.
Well, I thank you so much, ladies. And I'll show everybody the book again. And I just love the bookmark with the key. I mean, like, how?
Now, you know that's a pen.
A pen.
A pen, take the bottom off.
Very,
Because
very, the bottom tip, pull
The
down,
Bottom
the-
tip.
right there. Keep pulling, pull down, right there. Oh,
because
Oh my
part of what we like to say is to keep a journal. Write down what the doctors say, have your questions, have everything in it. And so part of the book, there is a journal aspect. And so that's why the bookmark, the key, that's kind of our logo throughout the whole thing. What is the key word that you need to
the
remember?
key takeaway, what would you like to take away from that chapter right in there? So Kathryn writes beautiful devotions in the book. We have the conversations between each other. Hey, I'm going today. What happened? And or golly, that medication is making my hands and knees hurt so badly. I had gone in and they said, oh, well, you don't have to take that one. So I called Kathryn. I said, they can change your medication to another one. What would work best for you? And it would still do the same thing it needs to do. So, and then because we met doing a cookbook, we decided to put a recipe after each chapter, and we've taken one that hopefully you can make for somebody. If it's granola, we've tried to take sugar out of it and add maple syrup, something a little bit more natural. So we would give you a good, healthy recipe to maybe make and give to somebody else, and just leave it at the door and walk off and ring the doorbell and run. So it's just letting somebody know you're thinking about them.
Well, thank y'all so much, ladies. This has just been so wonderful. Thank you for carving out the time. Thank you for sharing your journey with the world, because nobody has to do that. And so to share your journeys, to inspire others, and to give people hope, I mean, that is a gift that can't go without recognizing.
Thank you.
Thank you.